The conference hall floated in the depths of space, a massive structure that housed the representatives of 47 different species. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the human delegation's chamber, her hands folded on the smooth metal table before her. She had been part of the Galactic Council for 5 years now, and she thought she understood how things worked. Today she would learn how wrong she was. The holographic display showed the Kresh ambassador, a tall creature covered in black scales with eyes that glowed red in the dim light. His voice rumbled through the translation device that everyone wore. "The human colonies in the Outer Reach belong to the Kresh Empire by ancient right," he declared. "We discovered those systems 3,000 years ago. The humans are newcomers. They must leave." Sarah stood up, her heart pounding. "The Outer Reach colonies are home to 15 million humans. They have lived there for 30 years. The Council Charter protects all member colonies from territorial disputes." She looked around the circular chamber, expecting support. The Council had rules. The Council had laws. Surely they would honor their own agreements. The Vrin representative, an insect-like being with multiple eyes, spoke next. "The Council will discuss this matter privately. All delegations except Council members must leave." Sarah felt cold fear creep into her stomach. The Mutual Defense Pact requires the accused party to be present during deliberations. "You are dismissed, Ambassador Chen," the Vrin said firmly. She had no choice. Sarah walked out of the chamber, her assistant David following close behind. They went to the observation deck, where visiting diplomats could watch the Council proceedings through the glass. But today the glass turned opaque. The Council had activated privacy mode. "Something is wrong," David whispered. "They have never done this before." Sarah nodded. She pulled out her communication device and tried to contact Earth, but the signal was blocked. The entire station had been locked down. They were trapped, unable to warn anyone. Hours passed. Sarah paced back and forth, her mind racing through possibilities. None of them were good. Finally, a small figure appeared beside her. It was Keeper Zin, a member of the Peltheran species. The Peltherans were small, furry creatures who served as record keepers for the Council. "Ambassador Chen," Zin whispered, looking around nervously. "I should not be here, but I cannot stay silent. What happened in there?" Sarah demanded. Zin's large eyes were filled with sadness. "The vote was 46-1. Only my people voted against it. The Council has decided to sacrifice your colonies to the Kresh. They believe it is better to lose 15 million humans than to fight the Kresh Empire." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. "They are abandoning us? Breaking the Mutual Defense Pact?" "Worse," Zin said quietly. "They will declare Earth in violation of Charter protocols. Something about unauthorized military research. It is all lies, but it gives them legal cover. In 72 hours, Council forces will stand down. The Kresh will invade and no one will stop them." Sarah grabbed Zin's small shoulder. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because it is wrong," Zin said simply. "My people remember when we were weak? The Council protected us then. Now they betray those they should protect. This is not justice." Zin pressed a data chip into Sarah's hand. "This contains the vote records, the communications, everything. Get it to your people. I must go before I am missed." The small creature hurried away, disappearing into the shadows. Sarah looked at the chip in her hand. It felt heavy, like it weighed more than the entire station. "David," she said, her voice steady despite the rage building inside her. "We need to get off this station. Now." They moved quickly through the corridors, heading for the docking bay where human shuttles were kept. 2 Council security guards stood at the entrance, but they were not expecting any trouble. Humans were always obedient, always following the rules. Sarah walked up to them with a smile. "We need to collect some equipment from our shuttle." The guards looked at each other, uncertain. Before they could decide, David pulled out a small device and activated it. An electromagnetic pulse burst through the corridor, shorting out their weapons and communication devices. Sarah had never been so grateful that David was former military. They ran to the shuttle, their footsteps echoing through the metal halls. Alarms began to sound behind them, but it was too late. The shuttle's engines roared to life and they blasted out of the docking bay. Energy blasts fired after them, but the small ship was fast and agile. In seconds, they were clear of the station. "Setting course for Earth," David said, his fingers flying over the controls. "Jump drive charging. We will be home in 6 hours." Sarah sat in the co-pilot seat, staring at the data chip. 46 species had voted to betray humanity. They thought humans were weak. They thought Earth would simply accept this judgment. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 6 hours later, the shuttle dropped out of jump space near Earth. The blue and green planet hung before them, beautiful and peaceful, but Sarah knew that peace was about to end. "This is Shuttle Chen requesting emergency clearance," she broadcast. "I have critical intelligence for the United Earth government. Priority Alpha." Within minutes, military escorts surrounded their shuttle, guiding them to the landing pad at Earth Defense Command. Sarah and David were rushed into the building, through security checkpoints, and directly into the command center. President Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the room, surrounded by military officers and government officials. She was a tall woman with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Ambassador Chen," she said, "your message said the council betrayed us. Explain." Sarah inserted the data chip into the central computer. The holographic displays lit up with the council's secret communications, the vote records, the plans to abandon Earth's colonies. As the officials read through the documents, their faces grew darker with anger. Admiral Marcus Stone stepped forward. He was a broad-shouldered man with a scarred face and a reputation for brutal honesty. "They think we will simply accept this? That we will let 15 million humans die without a fight? They think we are weak," Sarah said. "They think we are primitives playing at civilization." President Vasquez was quiet for a long moment, her face unreadable. Then she spoke and her voice was cold as ice. "Activate Protocol Omega. Recall all human vessels from every corner of known space. I want our fleet assembled within 48 hours. Admiral Stone smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Finally. I have been waiting 50 years for this." "What is Protocol Omega?" Sarah asked. The president looked at her. "It is our insurance policy, Ambassador. For 50 years we have been preparing for the day when the galaxy showed its true face. We built ships in secret. We developed weapons the Council does not know about. We prepared for the worst." She walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "The Council thinks they know what humanity is capable of. They are about to learn the truth. We will save our colonies, and we will make sure no one ever threatens Earth again." Admiral Stone began giving orders, and the command center exploded into activity. Ships were being recalled. Weapons were being armed. Soldiers were being mobilized. The Galactic Council had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Kresh battle fleet emerged from jump space like a swarm of angry insects. 500 warships, each one bristling with weapons and armor. They had come to take what they believed was rightfully theirs, and they expected no real resistance. Commander Thrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the mighty warship called Death's Hand. He was a veteran of 40 campaigns, and he had never tasted defeat. Humans were soft creatures, barely worth the effort of conquest. "This would be easy. Scan the system," he ordered. "Show me their defenses." The tactical officer studied his display. "I detect approximately 50 human warships in orbit around the third planet. Primitive designs. Their weapons are outdated projectile-based systems and early-generation plasma cannons." Thrax laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. 50 ships against 500? They are either brave or stupid. Probably stupid. "Open a channel." The communication system activated, and Thrax's image was broadcast to every human ship and station in the system. "Humans of Earth, this is Commander Thrax of the Kresh Empire. Your council has abandoned you. Surrender immediately, and we will allow 10% of your population to live as servants. Refuse, and we will exterminate you all." There was a long silence. Then a human voice responded. It was calm and cold, without any trace of fear. "This is Admiral Marcus Stone of the Earth Defense Force. Your demands are rejected. You have entered our space without permission. Leave now or face the consequences." Thrax could not believe what he was hearing. These primitives dared to threaten him. "You cannot win, human. We outnumber you 10 to 1. "Then you should have brought more ships," Admiral Stone replied. "The communication cut off." Thrax roared in anger. "All ships, attack formation. Destroy everything." The Kresh fleet surged forward, engines blazing. They accelerated toward Earth, confident in their superiority. The 50 human ships turned and began to retreat, fleeing toward the fourth planet in the system, the red world the humans called Mars. "They run," Thrax shouted triumphantly. "Chase them down. Let none escape." The Kresh ships pursued eagerly, their weapons charging for the kill. They passed the orbit of Mars, following the fleeing human vessels deeper into the planet's gravity well. The human ships were fast, but not fast enough. The Kresh would catch them soon, and then everything changed. Space itself seemed to light up with sudden fire. Hundreds of weapons platforms hidden among the rocks and debris around Mars activated simultaneously. They had been cold and silent, invisible to Kresh sensors. Now they opened fire with devastating precision. Railguns launched metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missile pods released swarms of smart weapons. Energy beams lanced through the darkness, cutting into Kresh hulls. The platforms had been positioned perfectly, creating a killing zone that the Kresh fleet had flown directly into. Evasive maneuvers. Thrax screamed, but it was too late. His ships were packed too closely together, chasing their prey. They could not maneuver without colliding with each other. The 50 human ships that had been retreating suddenly turned. Their weapons, which the Kresh had dismissed as primitive, proved to be far more dangerous than expected. Plasma cannons fired with accuracy that should have been impossible. Each shot found its target, punching through shields and armor. But it was what happened next that truly shocked Thrax. From behind Mars, from the asteroid belt, from hidden positions throughout the system, more human ships appeared. Not 50 ships, not 100. Hundreds of ships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything the Kresh had expected. Impossible, Thrax gasped. Our intelligence said they only had a token defense force. His tactical officer's voice trembled with fear. Sir, I am detecting advanced shield technology, weapon systems we have never seen before, and their coordination is perfect. It is as if all their ships are thinking with one mind. On the bridge of the dreadnought Indomitable, Admiral Stone watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The holographic display showed every Kresh ship, every weapon, every movement. Ares, the artificial intelligence network that connected every human vessel, calculated trajectories and targets faster than any organic mind could follow. Ares, status report, Stone commanded. The AI's voice was calm and precise. Enemy fleet coherence dropping to 43%. Optimal firing solutions achieved on 91% of targets. Predicted enemy survival rate, 0.4%. Estimated time to complete victory, 23 minutes, Stone nodded. 50 years. 50 years of building in secret, of preparing for this day. The Council thought they knew humanity. They thought humans were newcomers, primitives, easily controlled. They had no idea what Earth had been doing while pretending to be obedient members of the galactic community. All ships, maintain formation. Let none escape. I want recordings of this battle transmitted on all galactic channels. Let the Council see what happens when you betray humanity. The battle was not really a battle anymore. It was an execution. The Kresh ships tried to fight back, but their weapons could barely scratch the human shields. They tried to retreat, but human ships were faster. They tried to surrender, but Admiral Stone had given orders. No mercy, no prisoners. Thrax watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. Ship after ship exploded into fire and debris. His warriors, veterans of countless victories, died without even inflicting significant damage on the enemy. How? He whispered. How did they hide such power? He would never learn the answer. A massive human warship, larger than anything he had ever seen, emerged from behind Mars. Its main weapon charged, gathering energy that made space itself ripple. When it fired, the beam cut through Death's hand like it was made of paper. Thrax's last thought was that he had underestimated the wrong species. 47 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 500 Kresh warships had been reduced to debris. Only a handful of escape pods drifted in the silence, and even those were being collected by human ships. Earth had lost 3 vessels and suffered damage to 8 others. It was not even close to a fair fight. Admiral Stone stood on his bridge watching the aftermath. His second-in-command, Captain Jennifer Park, approached him carefully. Sir, the recordings have been broadcast across all galactic channels. Every species in known space will have seen what happened here within hours. Good, Stone said. Let them see. Let them understand, Admiral, Park said hesitantly. What about the escape pods? There are Kresh survivors asking for rescue. Stone's face was hard as stone. Space them. All of them, Park swallowed. She had served with Stone for 20 years, and she knew he was not a cruel man. But he was a man who understood that wars were won not just with weapons but with fear. Sir, the Council laws regarding prisoners of war, The Council abandoned us, Stone interrupted. Their laws no longer apply to Earth. Besides, we need to send a message. A clear, unmistakable message. He turned to face her and his eyes were cold. The galaxy needs to understand what humanity is capable of. They need to know that when you attack Earth, there is no surrender. No mercy, no escape. Only total annihilation. Park nodded and gave the order. The escape pods were destroyed quickly and efficiently. When it was done, the space around Mars was filled with debris and silence. The Kresh Empire had sent 500 ships to conquer Earth. Not one would return home. Stone opened a communication channel to Earth. President Vasquez appeared on the screen. Madam President, the Kresh attack has been repelled. Total enemy casualties. Minimal losses on our side, Vasquez nodded. Well done, Admiral. Now comes the hard part. Prepare the fleet for departure. We are not waiting for them to attack us again. Where are we going? Stone asked, though he already knew the answer. To the Kresh homeworld, Vasquez said. To the council worlds that supported this betrayal. We are going to show them that humanity does not forgive. And we do not forget, Stone smiled. It was the smile of a predator about to hunt. The fleet will be ready to depart in 12 hours, Madam President. I suggest the council starts preparing their defenses. Not that it will help them. As the transmission ended, Stone looked out at his fleet. 2,400 warships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and determination. Ships that the council did not know existed. Weapons that would shock and terrify the galaxy. And an artificial intelligence network that made his fleet fight as one unstoppable force. The Kresh had come to Earth expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had awakened something they could not imagine. Humanity had been preparing for 50 years, building in the shadows, waiting for the day when the galaxy showed its true nature. That day had come. And now the galaxy would learn what humans really were. Not primitives, not newcomers, not victims, but survivors who would do whatever it took to protect their own. And when pushed to the edge, humanity did not break. They pushed back with a force that would shake the foundations of the entire galactic order. The message was broadcast across every channel, on every frequency. Admiral Stone's voice was heard on 1,000 worlds. This is Admiral Marcus Stone of Earth. The Galactic Council betrayed humanity. The Kresh Empire attacked our world. 500 ships came to destroy us. 500 ships died. Let this be a lesson to anyone who thinks Earth is weak. We are coming, and we will have our justice. The council chamber was filled with chaos. Representatives from 47 species shouted at each other, their translation devices creating a storm of overlapping voices. The holographic display in the center showed the same image over and over. The destruction of the Kresh fleet, the debris field around Mars, the undeniable proof of Earth's hidden military power. Counselor Vexith of the Vryn species tried to restore order. His multiple eyes darted around the chamber as he banged his staff against the floor. Silence. We must have order. But no one listened. The Kresh ambassador, a replacement for the one who had been so confident days ago, was screaming at the assembled council. You promised us the humans were weak. You said they had minimal defenses. 500 ships. 500 of our finest warships destroyed in less than an hour. The Talvos representative, a tall being covered in blue scales, pointed an accusing finger at the Intelligence Committee. How did we not know about this fleet? Where did they build 2,000 ships without our knowledge? Ambassador Quellen of the Peltharan species, the small furry creatures who had warned Earth, spoke quietly but firmly. Perhaps because we were not looking. We assumed humans were honest because they seemed weak. We did not consider that they might be planning for their own defense because we never gave them reason to trust us. They broke council law, someone shouted. Artificial intelligence networks are forbidden. They used an AI to coordinate their fleet. And we broke our mutual defense pact, Quellen replied. We voted to abandon them to die. Which violation is worse? The arguments continued for hours. But beneath the shouting and accusations, fear was growing. If humanity could hide such military strength for 50 years, what else were they hiding? And more importantly, what would they do next? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Every communication screen in the council chamber suddenly activated. Every display, every monitor, every holographic projector showed the same image. President Elena Vasquez of Earth, sitting behind her desk with the flag of United Earth behind her. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard as diamonds. Greetings to the Galactic Council, she began. I am President Elena Vasquez of United Earth. I address you today not as a member of your council, but as the leader of a betrayed people. Councillor Vexith tried to interrupt. This is a violation of council communication protocols, but the transmission could not be stopped. It was being broadcast on every frequency, to every world in known space. Billions of beings across the galaxy were watching. 50 years ago, Vasquez continued, humanity joined the Galactic Council in good faith. We believed in your laws. We trusted in your protection. We contributed our resources, our knowledge, and our soldiers to maintain peace. And when we needed you most, you abandoned us. The holographic display shifted, showing the vote records that Sarah Chen had stolen. Every council member's vote was displayed, clear and undeniable. 46 votes to sacrifice humanity. Only the Peltherans had stood with Earth. You voted to let the Kresh Empire exterminate 15 million humans. You created false charges against us to justify your betrayal. You believed we would simply die quietly, and the galaxy would forget we ever existed. Vasquez paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. You were wrong. The display changed again, showing the Battle of Mars from multiple angles. The destruction of the Kresh fleet played out in terrible detail. The Kresh came to destroy us. They brought 500 warships. They brought threats and demands. They brought their arrogance and their certainty of victory. We sent them home in pieces. The president leaned forward, her voice growing colder. Humanity spent 50 years preparing for this day. We knew that the galaxy was dangerous. We knew that eventually someone would try to destroy us. So we built ships. We developed weapons. We created defenses. All in secret because we learned early that showing weakness invites attack. She stood up, her figure dominating every screen across known space. Today, I formally announce that Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Council. Your laws no longer bind us. Your protection, which was always a lie, is no longer wanted. From this moment forward, humanity stands alone. The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs, but Vasquez was not finished. Furthermore, I hereby declare a state of war between United Earth and the Kresh Empire. Any species that provides military aid to the Kresh will be considered enemies of humanity. Any species that attacks human colonies or vessels will face the full might of Earth's fleet. The display showed images of the human fleet. 2,400 warships gathered in formation around Earth. It was a sight that sent chills through every being who saw it. We do not want this war, Vasquez said, her voice softer but no less firm. We wanted to live in peace as part of your council. You made that impossible. So now we will do what we must to survive. We will protect our colonies. We will destroy those who threaten us, and we will make sure that no one ever again believes that humanity is weak. She looked directly into the camera, and it felt like she was staring into the soul of every being watching. To the species of the galaxy, I say this: Earth remembers. We remember every kindness, and we remember every betrayal. Stand with us, and you will find no more loyal ally. Stand against us, and you will learn what it means to face a species that fights not for conquest, but for survival. You have 72 hours to decide where you stand. After that, our fleet departs for Kresh space. Anyone who gets in our way will be removed. Permanently. The transmission ended. Silence filled the council chamber. Then chaos returned worse than before. The Kresh ambassador was screaming into his communicator, demanding reinforcements from his homeworld. The Talvos representative was frantically trying to contact their military command. A dozen other species were making urgent calls to their governments, but 12 species were doing something different. They were quietly withdrawing their representatives from the council chamber. They had seen the recordings. They had heard the president's words, and they had made their decision. They would not fight for the council against humanity. Councillor Vexith watched his authority crumbling in real time. We must respond. We must show strength. The council cannot allow this rebellion. The Draconid ambassador, a massive reptilian being who rarely spoke, stood up. His species was one of the oldest and most powerful in the galaxy. And how do you propose we show this strength, Councillor? The humans destroyed 500 Kresh warships in less than an hour. They have 2,000 more ships that we knew nothing about. They have weapons technology we do not understand. And most importantly, they have nothing left to lose. We have 3,000 ships available from 20 species, Vexith insisted. We can crush them. Can we? The Draconid asked. I have studied the battle recordings. The human ships move with perfect coordination. Their weapons are devastatingly accurate. Their shields absorbed Kresh firepower that should have destroyed them. And this artificial intelligence they use, this ARE system, it gives them an advantage we cannot match. You counsel surrender? Vexith demanded. I counsel wisdom, the Draconid replied. The humans are not conquering anyone. They are defending themselves. They asked for our protection and we betrayed them. Perhaps we deserved what happened to the Kresh fleet. Before Vexith could respond, new reports began flooding in. Human ships were being spotted across the galaxy. Strike groups were moving toward Kresh territory. Other groups were taking up positions near Council worlds that had voted for humanity's abandonment. And on Earth, the mobilization was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 47 billion humans, not the 12 billion the Council believed existed, were preparing for war. Hidden colonies were revealing themselves. Secret shipyards were working at full capacity. A species that the Council had dismissed as primitive newcomers was showing the galaxy what humans really were. Survivors who had learned to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying the tactical display. His fleet was organized into 5 strike groups, each one a hammer ready to fall on the Council's carefully maintained order. Captain Park approached him. Admiral, we have received responses from our 72-hour ultimatum. 12 species have declared neutrality. 8 species have offered to join us against the Kresh. The remaining 27 are mobilizing to defend the Council. Only 27? Stone smiled grimly. Fear is a powerful motivator. What about the Kresh? They are calling for Council support. They have mobilized their remaining fleet. Approximately 1,000 warships. Combined with Council forces, we will be facing over 3,000 enemy vessels. Stone nodded. He had expected nothing less. And our forces? All 5 strike groups are ready to depart. 2,400 ships, fully armed, fully crewed, and connected to the Ares network. We also have support from 200 vessels from allied species. Good. Stone pulled up the navigation charts. Strike Group Alpha will jump to the Talvos system and eliminate their shipyards. Strike Group Beta will blockade Kresh supply routes here and here. Strike Group Gamma will engage the Council reinforcement fleet before they can reach Kresh space. Strike Groups Delta and Epsilon will accompany me to Kresh Prime. The Talvos system had been peaceful for 300 years. The massive orbital shipyards circling the 4th planet produced commercial vessels for half the galaxy. 2 million Talvos workers lived and worked in the floating cities of metal and glass, never imagining that war would come to their home. It came at dawn, local time. 300 human warships dropped out of jump space in perfect formation, and Strike Group Alpha began its attack before the Talvos defense fleet could even raise shields. Commander Sarah Okoye stood on the bridge of the carrier Righteous Fury, watching the tactical display with cold efficiency. The Talvos had voted to abandon humanity. Their shipyards built vessels for the Kresh Empire. They had made their choice and now they would pay for it. All bombers launch, she ordered. Target the military production facilities first, then the shipyards. Leave the civilian habitats untouched if possible, but the industrial capacity must be completely destroyed. Hundreds of bomber craft poured from the human carriers, streaking toward the orbital facilities. The Talvos defense fleet, caught completely off guard, tried to intercept. They were too slow. Human missiles and energy weapons tore through their shields like they were made of paper. Within 15 minutes, the Talvos fleet was scattered and broken. The shipyards tried to evacuate, but there was nowhere to run. Massive explosions bloomed in the darkness as the production facilities were systematically destroyed. 200 years of construction gone in an afternoon. The Talvos had built ships for the galaxy. Now they would build nothing. Commander Okoye watched workers fleeing in escape pods and made the hardest decision of her life. Let them go. We are here to destroy their military capability, not to murder civilians. But even with that mercy, the casualties were devastating. 300,000 Talvos died in the attack, caught in explosions or trapped in damaged facilities. The survivors would remember this day forever. The day humanity showed the galaxy that betrayal had consequences. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out in different systems. Strike Group Beta blockaded Kresh supply routes, destroying cargo ships carrying weapons and supplies. Entire convoys disappeared, their crews given one chance to abandon ship before the vessels were obliterated. Those who refused died with their cargo. The Kresh Empire had ruled through fear for 1,000 years. Now they learned what it felt like to be afraid. But the real horror came at the Azure Nebula, where Strike Group Gamma intercepted the Council reinforcement fleet. 3,000 ships from 20 different species had gathered to stop humanity's advance. It was the largest military force assembled in 200 years. Admiral Rachel Torres commanded Strike Group Gamma, 800 human warships against 3,000 enemies. The odds seemed impossible. The Council commanders were confident they would crush the humans through sheer numbers. They did not understand what Ares could do. The artificial intelligence network connected every human ship, every weapon, every sensor into a single unified system. Ares calculated trajectories faster than any organic mind could comprehend. It predicted enemy movements before they happened. It coordinated attacks with precision that seemed impossible. The battle began with the Council fleet charging forward in a traditional formation, expecting to overwhelm the smaller human force. Ares saw their pattern, calculated their weaknesses, and struck with surgical precision. Human ships moved in perfect coordination, never colliding, never leaving gaps in their formation. Every shot was calculated for maximum effect. Every maneuver was designed to put enemy ships in each other's firing lines. The Council fleet, with 20 different species using 20 different tactical systems, could not coordinate effectively. They got in each other's way. They fired on friendly ships by accident. They were a mob, not an army. The humans were a machine of war. Admiral Torres watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Ares, focus fire on the command ships. Take out their leaders and the rest will scatter. Affirmative, the AI responded, identifying primary targets. Optimal firing solutions calculated. Massive human dreadnoughts fired their main weapons, beams of concentrated energy that could cut through a planet's crust. Council command ships, heavily armored and shielded, exploded one after another. Without their commanders, the Council fleet fell into chaos. The battle lasted 8 hours. When it ended, the Azure Nebula was filled with debris and bodies. 1,800 Council ships destroyed. The survivors fled in terror, jumping to random coordinates just to escape the human fleet. Strike Group Gamma had lost 63 ships. The victory was absolute and the message was clear. Numerical superiority meant nothing against superior technology and coordination. But humanity saved their greatest fury for the Kresh homeworld. Kresh Prime was a massive planet, home to 12 billion Kresh citizens, the capital of an empire that had ruled 40 systems for 1,000 years. The Kresh had never known defeat on their home soil. They believed themselves invincible. Admiral Marcus Stone brought 900 warships to their doorstep and taught them differently. The Kresh defense fleet fought bravely, meeting the humans in orbit around their homeworld. 500 Kresh warships against 900 human vessels. They fought with the desperation of people defending their home, and for the first time they inflicted real casualties on the human fleet. But bravery was not enough. One by one, the Kresh ships fell. Their weapons, powerful by galactic standards, could not penetrate human shields effectively. Their armor, thick and strong, melted under human energy weapons. Their tactics, proven in 100 campaigns, were predicted and countered by Ares before they could be executed. When the last Kresh warship exploded, Admiral Stone gave the order that would echo through history. Begin orbital bombardment. Target all military installations, weapons factories, and shipyards. Avoid civilian population centers when possible. But the Kresh war machine must be completely destroyed. Captain Park protested. Sir, there are billions of civilians down there. If we destroy their industrial base, their economy will collapse. Millions will die from starvation and disease. Stone's face was like carved granite. They came to Earth to exterminate 15 million humans. They showed no mercy. They expected none. Now they receive none. This is not justice, Admiral. This is revenge. Justice is what the strong decide it is, Captain. And right now, we are the strong. Begin bombardment. For 6 days, human ships fired on Kresh Prime. Not on cities, not on homes, but on every facility that could support war. Weapons factories were reduced to rubble. Shipyards became craters. Military bases disappeared under concentrated fire. The Kresh government, hidden in underground bunkers, could only watch as their empire's power was systematically erased. 2 billion Kresh died in those 6 days. Not from direct attacks, but from collateral damage. From infrastructure collapse. From the chaos that came when an advanced civilization was suddenly bombed back to a pre-industrial state. The galaxy watched in horror. News feeds from 1,000 worlds showed the same images. Human ships in orbit firing down with mechanical precision. The Kresh, who had terrorized their neighbors for generations, reduced to helpless victims. Some species cheered, some wept. All of them feared. On the 7th day, the Kresh Emperor emerged from his bunker and broadcast a message on all frequencies. He was an old Kresh, his scales dulled with age, his red eyes dimmed by despair. We surrender, unconditionally. Please stop the bombardment. We have no more capacity to resist. Our military is destroyed. Our industry is gone. Please have mercy on our people. Admiral Stone received the transmission and considered it for a long moment. Then he opened a channel to the Emperor. Mercy? You came to Earth demanding we reduce our population by 90%. You threatened to exterminate us all if we refused. Now you ask for mercy? The Emperor's voice trembled. We were wrong. We underestimated you. We will pay any price, accept any terms, but please stop killing our people. Stone was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was cold as the void of space. Very well. Here are the terms. The Kresh Empire is dissolved, effective immediately. Your military will be completely disbanded. All weapons manufacturing will cease permanently. You will pay reparations to Earth for 3 generations, and your leadership will stand trial for war crimes. And if we refuse? The Emperor asked, though he already knew the answer. Then the bombardment continues until there is nothing left to refuse. You have 1 hour to decide. The Emperor did not need an hour. The Kresh Empire, which had stood for 1,000 years, surrendered completely. Their ships were scrapped. Their weapons were destroyed. Their once proud civilization was reduced to a broken shadow of its former self. But humanity was not finished. Across the galaxy, human forces moved against every species that had supported the betrayal. 14 systems were blockaded. 23 military installations were destroyed. Hundreds of ships were captured or eliminated. The campaign was efficient, brutal, and unstoppable. The Galactic Council tried to organize resistance, but their authority was shattered. Species that had been members for thousands of years quietly withdrew, unwilling to face humanity's wrath. Some sent secret diplomatic messages to Earth begging for peace. Others simply hoped that if they stayed quiet, the humans would leave them alone. 6 months after the war ended, President Elena Vasquez stood before the representatives of 31 species in what had once been the Council Chamber. But this was not the Galactic Council anymore. Today, they were founding something new, something that humanity would shape from the beginning. She looked out at the assembled delegates, seeing fear in many faces, hope in others, and calculation in most. They had come because they had no choice. Earth's fleet still patrolled the space lanes, a constant reminder of who held the power now. Welcome, Vasquez began, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. We gather today not as the Galactic Council, which betrayed its own principles, but as something new. We will call it the Terran Compact, and it will be built on different foundations than the Council was. She gestured to the holographic display, which showed the new charter. Under the Terran Compact, all member species are equals. There will be no second-class members, no probationary periods, no votes to sacrifice one species to appease another. If you are attacked, we all defend you. If you need help, we all provide it. And if you betray the Compact, you face us all. The Peltheran ambassador, Keeper Zin, stood. The small furry creature had been humanity's only supporter during the betrayal, and now he spoke for many smaller species. President Vasquez, your words speak of equality, but human warships patrol our space. Human bases occupy former Council worlds. How can we be equals when you hold all the power? It was a fair question, and Vasquez had known it would come. You are correct, Keeper Zin. We do hold the military power, and we will not apologize for that. The old Council proved that without power to back your principles, they mean nothing. But power does not mean we will abuse it. She pulled up images of human aid ships. In the past 6 months, Earth has sent medical supplies to 17 worlds affected by the war. We have provided food to populations facing starvation. We have shared our technology with species that need it. We destroyed the Kresh war machine, but we are now helping to rebuild their civilian infrastructure. This is the kind of power we intend to use. A murmur went through the assembled delegates. The Draconid ambassador, whose species was one of the oldest and most powerful, stood slowly. Humanity speaks well, but we have seen what you do to enemies. We watched the bombardment of Kresh Prime. We saw the destruction of Talvos. How do we know you will not turn on us when we displease you? Vasquez met his eyes steadily. You do not know. You must trust us just as we trusted the Council. And look where that trust led us. The difference is that we are honest about our power. We do not pretend to be something we are not. If you violate the compact, if you threaten Earth or its allies, we will respond with force. But if you are loyal, you will find no better friend in the galaxy. She paused, letting her words sink in. The choice is yours. Join the compact and help us build something better than the Council, or stand alone in a galaxy that has changed forever. But know this, the old order is dead. It died when the Council voted to betray one of its own members. What rises from its ashes is up to all of us. One by one, the delegates voted. 31 species joined the Terran compact that day, not because they loved humanity, but because they feared being left outside of Earth's protection. It was not the idealistic alliance Vasquez had hoped for, but it was a start. But not everyone was celebrating Earth's victory. On Earth itself, in the Great Plaza before the government center, 50,000 protesters had gathered. They carried signs with messages like, "Not in our name" and "How many dead for our security?" And "We have become what we fought against." Dr. James Morrison, a professor of ethics who had lost his son in the war, stood at the front of the crowd. His voice, amplified by speakers, reached thousands. They tell us we won. They tell us we are safe. But at what cost? We destroyed an empire. We killed billions of civilians. We shattered worlds. And for what? Because the Council betrayed us? Because we were afraid? The crowd roared in agreement. We claim to be better than the species that threatened us. We claim to stand for justice and peace, but our hands are covered in blood. Kresh blood, Talvos blood, the blood of every species that stood against us. Are we the heroes of this story, or are we the monsters? Inside the government center, President Vasquez watched the protest on the monitors. General Chen stood beside her, his face troubled. Should we disperse them, Madam President? They are blocking traffic and disrupting government operations. No, Vasquez said firmly. They have every right to protest. They have every right to question what we did. In fact, I am glad they are doing so. It means we have not lost our soul completely, but they are calling us war criminals. They are demanding that you and Admiral Stone stand trial for crimes against sentient life. Vasquez smiled sadly. Perhaps we should. Perhaps we are criminals. We certainly broke every rule of civilized warfare. We destroyed civilian infrastructure. We killed billions who never attacked us directly. We did all of this in the name of security and revenge. We did it to survive, Chen protested. Yes. But does survival justify everything? That is the question Dr. Morrison and his protesters are asking, and it is a question we should ask ourselves. She turned away from the monitor. Schedule a meeting with the protest leaders. I will speak with them directly. They deserve answers, even if I am not sure I have good ones. Meanwhile, on the lunar base that served as Fleet Command, Admiral Marcus Stone was dealing with his own crisis. Half of his senior officers had requested transfers. They could not reconcile what they had done during the war with their consciences. Captain Jennifer Park sat across from him in his office, her resignation letter on the desk between them. I cannot do this anymore, Admiral, she said quietly. I followed your orders. I fired on those shipyards at Talvos. I watched 300,000 beings die. And for what? To send a message? To prove we were strong? Stone's face was carved from stone, showing no emotion. To ensure it never happens again. To make sure that no species ever again believes they can attack Earth without consequences. We did not just defeat them, Admiral. We annihilated them. We destroyed their civilization. Their children will grow up in poverty because we bombed their infrastructure. Their sick will die because we destroyed their medical facilities. Is that justice? It is survival, Stone replied. In war, there is no justice. There is only victory or defeat. We chose victory, Park shook her head. I used to believe in what we were doing. I used to think we were the good ones. But after Kresh Prime, after watching you order the bombardment day after day, I realized something. We are not the good ones. We are just the ones with bigger guns. She stood up. My resignation is effective immediately. I can no longer serve under your command. Stone watched her leave, his expression never changing. But when she was gone, he slumped in his chair, suddenly looking older than his 60 years. He pulled up the casualty reports from the war. 47 billion beings dead. 47 billion. The number was too large to comprehend, too terrible to fully grasp. He thought about Commander Thrax, the Kresh officer who had come to Earth so confident of victory. He thought about all the Kresh warriors who died at Mars, believing they were invincible. He thought about the workers at Talvos, going about their jobs one moment, dead the next, and he thought about the 15 million humans the Kresh had planned to exterminate. The children who would have died, the families who would have been torn apart, the civilization that would have been ended. It was necessary, he whispered to the empty room. It was all necessary, but he was no longer sure he believed it. 20 years passed. The galaxy adapted to its new reality. The Terran Compact grew to 47 members, exactly the same number as the old council. But this alliance was different, held together by a combination of genuine cooperation and fear of Earth's military might. Humanity had become the dominant power, the protector of the weak and the enforcer of peace. Human culture spread across the galaxy. Human language became the common tongue of trade. Human ships patrolled the space lanes, keeping pirates and raiders at bay. The Kresh Empire was a distant memory. Their world had recovered somewhat, but they would never again be a major power. They lived quietly, peacefully, their children taught in schools about the terrible price of arrogance. The old council worlds adapted or declined. Some joined the compact and prospered. Others refused and slowly faded into irrelevance. The galaxy had changed, and those who could not change with it were left behind. On Earth, a new generation had grown up knowing only the compact. They saw the monuments to the war dead, read the history books, and tried to understand what their parents and grandparents had done. Some were proud, others were ashamed. Most were simply grateful to live in a more peaceful time. President Vasquez had served 2 terms and retired. She lived quietly now in a house by the ocean, watching the waves and thinking about choices and consequences. Sometimes protesters still came to her door, calling her a war criminal. Sometimes veterans came to thank her for their survival. She treated both groups with the same quiet dignity. Admiral Stone had died 5 years ago, his body worn out by decades of war and stress. His funeral was attended by thousands, split evenly between those who honored him as a hero and those who condemned him as a monster.